this week's mailbag. Remember, these are questions and comments that you guys leave on the channel. I will try to my best to answer. If I can't, I throw it out to the forum, and other members of the community will try and do their best to answer or leave comments. But before we start, remember, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit the subscribe button now. If you want to be notified about future content that's loaded to the channel, hit that bell icon. And consider supporting the channel on Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/The Music Tech Guy UK, and the address should be appearing somewhere down here. So, another one from Rob A. In response to the T1 octave missing mailbag I recorded at the beginning of, well, I say beginning of March, it was the 8th of March. And he writes, "Hi, another T1 MIDI question." I'm getting quite a lot of questions on the T1. I wonder why. I am an original owner of a T1 in mint condition. Well, keep hold of it. That's all I can say. Do not sell it. Make sure you're carried out of it and use it as your coffin. I jest, by the way. I use the T1 primarily as a MIDI controller. It works fine using the A bank MIDI output on the back panel. However, when I plug in the MIDI out into the B set of outputs, no signal sent to MIDI in my sound module. Any thoughts? Thanks. Now, this was a tough question. So, as you know, I have packed the studio up, and one of the keyboards that is in storage at the moment is the T1, because I have to be fair to the person I'm living with at the moment, and not have too many keyboards floating around the house, and they are slowly starting to creep in, to the point that in a few weeks' time I will show you my new workshop, which is over there. Which we're just constructing at the moment, which will allow me to do a lot more maintenance videos, all the stuff I've been meaning to do for a long time, but I haven't been able to do. So that's going to come across. So we were talking about that earlier today, whether she would be kind enough to allow me to put some benches in there. Anyway, back to the question. It's a tough question, and I kind of knew the answer to it. But something was sort of kind of nagging in the back of my head that said, I'm not quite right. So I have done some research on this, and I have looked it up. So I think what I'm saying is now correct. And I was one bit which I thought did one thing, and I now understand it doesn't do that. I sort of refreshed my memory when I looked it up. But you're quite correct. When you play the keyboard straight out of the box, the keyboard is set up that it will send music data, sustains, velocities, etc., all that other good stuff. It will send it down the A MIDI out. Okay, so A MIDI out, all that stuff goes down by default, and that is by design, right? It's not broken. That's how the keyboard works. Now, you can hunt around on the keyboard quite a lot, and you will not find a way of changing the global out channel from the A bank, because it is not designed to work that way. You do have access to 32 channels of MIDI. This is not a false claim. There are 16 channels on A and 16 channels on B. Okay, so you get 2 lots of MIDI. But the way Korg have done it is far more complicated, really, than it kind of needed to be, but that's how it has been implemented. So, if you go into a combination, you can specify 8 separate programs to form that combination. Okay, that's standard functionality across the T1 or across the T series. You can then set each channel or each program effectively to operate on an individual channel on the B bank. Okay, so that it will push out data related to that particular program on the B bank. And it will receive information on the channel you specify on the B bank as well. Now you might say, well, what's the point of that? Well, the point of that is to sort of like, you can zone the keyboard up with your program. So you can say where on the keyboard you want various programs to sit, and whether you're triggering an internal sound or whether you're triggering a sound module to do the sound, that zone will transmit on that channel to the slave. I'm hoping I'm making sense. And you effectively access the channel assignment by going into the eCombi button, pressing the eCombi button, then pressing number 3 to access the MIDI 1 page, and you can set it all up from in there. So, as I said, if you have splits and zones, and you can put the programs into all kinds of places, that's how you do it. Now, I'm going to caveat my answer saying, obviously, my T1 is in storage, so I normally would have tested this out before I put it to channel, but my T1 obviously is in storage, and I thought it was worth pushing this out. In truth, the A and the B banks were designed for use with either the internal sequencer, I say the A and the B banks, really the B banks were designed to be used with the internal sequencer, or have an external sequencer pushing data into the T1 to play its internal sounds. So, I hope this sheds some light on it. It can be used in a lot of ways, and I have used it in the past, used the B bank of MIDI out, but to be honest, it's not like an A80 where you actually have 4 clusters of MIDI out. This is really designed to work with the T1 itself. But the T1 is a fab master keyboard, and I used it as a master keyboard. I've used it as master keyboard. I've used it as master keyboard for many years now, and I find that it's fab, and I find the keyboard a joy to play. Anyway, I sent that answer back to Rob, and he then sent me a follow-up response, so I think it's probably worth saying that. Well, John, you're the go-to man for these sorts of questions, and certainly on the T1. Very clear and informative explanation, reassuring that my T1 isn't broken. No, it's not broken, and thank you very much for the review. Right, next one from Gary Robertson in response to the Courier's MX1 and New Bits video. I sort of picked on a couple of videos this week just to clear the backlog of comments, to be honest. Hence the reason why all 3, there's sort of similar videos. And he writes, "Hey mate, if you PM me your email address, I will send some photos showing how I've got my cables set up to power the multiple boutique units. Even with the correct combination of USB splitter cables, it took me a few goes to work it out. Also, in regards to your item that is headed to Russia, I once put my old TR6 on eBay and was inundated by better offers after the auction had finished, so I think you are probably right in saying that that's what's happened to your item." Now, as this question was received a while back, I've kind of solved the power problem, and I will do a video on the power setup now that it's finally figured out. I did intend to do it before I actually moved, but things just got in the way, like life. But in response to the sort of the item going to Russia, this is behaviour by some people after something has finished. They try to sort of get in their gazump, how much was it? If you sell it to me, I'll give you £5 more type thing. And I've had that personally. I've actually had people contact me after the auction is finished to say, "Oh, I really wanted that thing. I'd give you an extra tenner if you turn around to the guy who won it and say it's no longer available." Personally, when you use an auction site, it's an auction site. The hammer drops, or the virtual hammer drops. Whoever's bid the most money based on your criteria wins the thing, and that's how I operate. I'm not going to gazump you or undercut, but there are people out there that are willing to do that, and I know that for a fact because I'm trying to sell my old house at the moment, and I'm being inundated by this sort of behaviour. So there you go. The next one comes from Michael Walls, and this is in response to my review of the previous year I did back at the beginning of February this year, 2020. And he writes, "I find it very endearing that you share a little of your private life, mate. We're only human and we need to stick together. I'm humbled by the fact that you take our questions seriously and don't judge. Your knowledge is invaluable." Well, thank you very much. Which Mackie desk do you have looking to replace my MX1? And well, I have to be honest and say that the reason I started this channel was all about knowledge sharing. I'm a strong believer. I work in an industry where people like to keep things to themselves, and it really screws things up. Whereas, really what you want to do is you want to get the knowledge out there, and then people can build on the knowledge rather than having to reinvent the wheel all the time. And my industry is particularly bad at doing that. And I'm a great believer that knowledge is not power. Power is being able to implement knowledge. So, that's kind of where I am. I'm quite passionate about that thing. In response to the mixer, I bought the Mackie Pro FX 12, which is from the Pro FX range of mixers. Now, these mixers come in I believe, I'm not looking at my notes now, an 8, a 12, a 16, a 24 and a 32 channel configuration, depending on what you need. Now, I plumped for the 12 channel, which is ample for what I wanted it for, and I did that in a video when I bought it, when I was sort of summing up why did I buy this particular model of mixer. The only downside, if you're looking at it for a replacement of the MX1, is this mixer will only give you 2 channels of audio into your computer, whereas the MX1 obviously gives you a spectrum of audio channels, 18 off the top of my head, into your DAW. So if you don't mind the fact that all you're going to be doing is taking 2 channels of audio in, this is actually a really good solution. In fact, I actually find this as a really good solution in lots of instances that I wouldn't have thought it was in the 3 months that I've owned it. Predominantly, I'm using it for this style of recording, where I'm recording to camera and I'm actually recording the audio directly into the video source of this, using that mixer effectively. And it also allows me quite easily to connect instruments in, and I can hear the instruments back through either using in-ears or earphones or something like that. Or quite often what I will do is I have a monitor and I turn the mic down in the environment, so I can actually hear the music coming out the monitor, and obviously you're hearing the music that's being recorded directly through the mixer. But that said, I'm very happy with my Pro FX 12 mixer. So that's what I did, and if you go and look up another video, and if I remember to, I will put a link to the other video here where I actually explained why I bought this one. And this marathon session has been brought to you not by this particular coffee company, by good research. Oh god, that made a noise. Last one for this section, and it comes from 12 Op in response to who were Sound Source Unlimited. Now, this was a really interesting video I did. I've kind of struggled with Sound Source Unlimited. They made lots of sound packs for lots of instruments, but there's not a lot seems to be known about these guys. They sort of kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. Anyway, 12 Op sort of like adds some more, I suppose, information to sort of the rounded picture here. And he writes, you're quite right, there is very little info about them. They made some of the best sounds for the DX series and some great stuff for the Roland D series as well, I know. But slight comparison, Grey Sounds does sell some of the old stock on eBay. The company that made E Upgrade was actually Grey Matter. I do apologise, I did get that wrong. On my own channel, I have made some basic demos of the 12 DX7 2 FD discs, if you want care to hear them. And now I actually have been over to his channel and I have actually been listening to them. I'm not sure if Chick was directly involved or was in one of their abs. He was not credited as a programmer in any of the DX or TX soundbacks that I had. So, as I said, always happy to be corrected. If I get something wrong, please tell me. I will put a correction. There you go. There's the correction on the channel. So thank you. And as I said, I've already been over to 12 Op's channel and I've been listening to some of the discs that he has got up on his channel. So thank you very much for that. And I will put a link to 12 Op's channel below this so that you can go and do the same thing. But as I say, I was struggling when I did the research for this video. I thought looking up someone like Sound Source would be a fairly easy thing to do because of the footprint they seem to have had in that sort of late 80s, early 90s era. How wrong could I be? and I think I made reference to the fact that the information was kind of sketchy, but I thought it was worth doing a video about Sound Source and just seeing what came out of the woodwork. I do find it strange that a company that seemed to be so embedded in sound production for so many iconic synths can just disappear off the face of the earth. But to be honest, that's where we are. I can't find very much information about these guys at all. I can find a few legacy bits and bobs, which is what I use to collate the article. But in terms of anything else to do with these, who owned it, it's all really, really cloak and dagger stuff, and I'm not prepared to pay the money that was required to actually approach the Californian company register. So in this country, we have a company's house, a place called Company's House. All companies have to be registered at Company's House, and the information is publicly available. In the US, you seem to have to pay quite a lot of money to actually get the information off the company register. And now I don't know why that is, but that's the scenario. So there is very little footprint for these guys, but I did my best.